Chapter 23, The Hermit. When you saw Kain today, how was he like? Asked Oberon. He was in pain, but I remedied the problem, said Karina. And he should have come to me sooner, but he didn't want to wake me up. I am surprised it didn't happen a lot sooner, commented Bruno. I'm not surprised, said Karina. Why? Asked Oberon. Isn't it obvious? Asked Karina, pointing to Oberon's reproductive organ. The spear that Oberon was wearing left little to the imagination, and narrowing his eyes he hissed, "Look again, Karina." And he jumped from the sandal, and he came to stand before Karina, and from a standing angle, Karina had a better view of his dimension. It wasn't small, just below average, and Oberon turned his attention to Kain, and he was coming out of the water while carrying Bruno's nieces, and Bruno left the sand to go swim about with the girl, and the face smiling Kain's face disappeared when he saw Oberon. "I'm sorry," said Oberon, turning his gaze. "Don't worry about it," said Kain dryly. "Accidents happen. You're not the first person to draw blood in my bedchambers." "That honor goes to me," said Karina, raising her hand proudly. "And we were bored and we decided to try something new, so he tied me up." "Please, Karina, there are children present," said Rebecca, curbing Karina's look conversation. And Karina brought out her cell phone to test Oberon, and she wrote, "Kain tied me up and I told him to whip me. And since he was hitting me a little too soft, I tied him up and I showed him how hard he had to hit me. And after one strike, he said he never wanted to play with me again. And while I was untying him, I saw that I had drawn blood, and that was the end of that sort of affair." "I guess roughhousing is off the table," said Oberon while shifting the sand with his left hand. "So it seems," said Karina, a little disappointed. Kain sat down on the sand, and he shifted uncomfortable to lie on his side, and this motion alone made it obvious to everyone that he was still hurting. And Oberon brought a towel from his backpack, and he rolled it out to make a pillow for Kain. And Kain smiled sadly before breathing a sigh of relief. "And you look a little sunburned. Here, let me apply some cream," said Oberon, reaching into his pack. And he refreshed Kain's sunblock, and it was then when Oberon noticed that Kain's lips looked a little dry, so he brought his boyfriend a bottle of water. "And can you get me a croquette? And I will get up to get one, but I'm too comfortable," said Kain with a weepy tone in his voice. Oberon left his seat to fetch the food, and Jack covered his mouth to restrain his laughter, and he could tell when his son was malingering for attention, and when he was small, Kain would only malinger to his father, since Jack was the only one to take his petty complaints seriously. And Jack sighed sadly while he thought of all of the little things he had missed due to his past drug addiction. And Kain continued to malinger, and Oberon was none the wiser, and as far as he knew, he had seriously damaged his boyfriend's nether regions. And Jack drove his son's car back home, even though Kain was capable of sitting up just fine. "And do you want me to carry you inside?" asked Oberon. "No, I can walk just fine," said Kain, shifting in his seat, and he felt that he had malingered enough for one day. "And what do you want to eat?" "Whatever you cook is fine, really," said Oberon, and he didn't want to be a bother. "It's fine, don't worry about it," said Kain, getting out of the car without assistance. "Well, you could. I'm going to need to borrow your laptop, and unless send me a book she wants me to read," said Oberon. "I can read it to you if you like," offered Kain. "It is a book on X-rays," said Oberon. "Sounds cool," said Kain. "It isn't. It is a medical textbook, and I can't spend the rest of my life as an errand boy or a bouncer," said Oberon sternly. "And if you need me to help you with anything, just tell me," insisted Kain before going to his room to shower off the sand. And Oberon read the medical book, and from time to time he would yawn, and the only thing that urged him on was the promise of making $28 an hour in 2 years or less. And he stopped torturing himself as soon as he smelled dinner, and after 2 hours he had somehow managed to read 10 pages. And it had been a slow progress, with a constant checking of the glossary in order to make sense of the writing. The family had dinner, and Jack and Esther had finally seen this of Oberon that Kain was so enamored with, and Oberon too had noticed a change in both their attitudes, and they hadn't worn up to him yet, but they were no longer politely indifferent. That night, since Oberon had been so nice to him, Kain decided to reward him, and without much preamble, Kain locked Oberon into the mating embrace before sinking into the bed. And after kissing him, he asked, "And what do you want to do tonight, my love?" "Does it still hurt?" asked Oberon, still worried. "It's fine," lied Kain, and he added, giving a sheepish smile. It still stinks, but I think I'll be alright as long as we don't use your playthings. If you didn't like them, if you didn't like them, you could have cried Uncle sooner back over on kissing Kain's forehead, and Kain shifted in the bed to rest his head against Oberon's chest, and Oberon proceeded to absently-mindedly caress Kain's back. Back rub. Kain sighed with contentment before saying, I love you. And Oberon wanted to reciprocate that sentiment, but he wasn't able to. He felt a lot of things for Kain, but love wasn't one of those emotions. And Oberon continued with those caresses until he finished lulling Kain to sleep. And while Kain slept, he started to overanalyze his relationship with Kain. He had become possessed by a singular thought. What if Kain didn't like sleeping with him? And he dismissed that idea altogether, and men were not like women, and if a man didn't like sleeping with someone, he would not get inspired, and a woman could easily fake arousal, but not a man. And just as he was falling asleep, Oberon thought, but men can fantasize about others to get in the mood, and is Kain thinking of another person while he's with me? And the following day came, and he started with a visit for his sister and his father Francis. And the man had read his letter of so Veronica claimed, and he was there to hear his son's side of the story. Kain, can you come with me to speak with my father? Asked Oberon. Okay, but I wouldn't know what to say, said Kain, but maybe. You want someone close to Francis' age to act as mediator, said Jack thoughtfully. And this is how Dad will handle it, and whatever you say, Kain, your words will not carry this say anyway because of your age. And how old is your dad, by the way? I am 25, and my parents married when they were 22 or 19, said Oberon, doing the math. So 22 plus 25 means that my dad is 47. I guess we could ask Uncle Gen to mediate, suggested Kain. My brother needs to relax, and he's emotionally preparing himself to take you to your pre-trial, said Jack. I can go there by myself just fine, said Kain, and he didn't want to be a bother. Are you testifying? Asked Oberon. Kinda. It is a pre-trial for Eric, said Kain. And the least said about it, the better. I am trying not to think about it, and I will deal with it when I deal with it. I'm going to have an emergency meeting with my brother and my sister, said Jack, locking himself in his room. Do you always operate by committee? Asked Oberon. We used to be a dictatorship, and if Raphael was around, he will be leading the charge while we cheer on all of his terrible decisions, said Esther, laughing sadly. And she gave a big sign that illustrated how much she missed arguing with her dead husband. The Sanson family spoke over the phone, and at the end of the committee, it was agreed that Stacy would come along for the ride. And she was close to Frances' age, and she was more level-headed than her husband. And Oberon spent the minutes pacing about in the living room, and he was nervous about speaking with his father. And Veronica chose a neutral spot, Bayside. Oberon found his father sitting in a coffee shop that faced the harbor. And there was a cold breeze coming from the ocean, and Francis sighed wearily when he saw Kain and Stacy. And he was hoping to converse with his son in private, and father and son sat before one another not speaking, and Stacy was the one who broke the silence. Oberon, tell your father how you felt when he threw you out of the house, said Stacy. Betrayed, hissed Oberon. And Francis, how do you feel when you saw Oberon in bed with a man? Asked Stacy. Disappointed, said Francis. Why do you feel disappointed? Asked Stacy. My son was keeping secrets from me and lying to me, and he thought that I didn't know, but I did. And I can always tell when you lie to me, Oberon, and I always knew that there was something fishy going on between you and Sean. And all I was missing was the proof, and I found it, hissed Francis. And why did you throw me out of the house? Asked Oberon. To teach you a lesson that you sadly failed to grasp, and for that I do apologize, said Francis before sipping his judgmental tea. You are not a father, so I do not expect you to understand the difficult choices a parent must make to ensure the survival of their offspring. And just know that I did what I did in order to save you from yourself. I don't need saving, father, and there's nothing wrong with me. And you're the one who's sick, barked Oberon. Settle down, Oberon. And now why don't you tell your father why you are with Kain, said Stacy. Oberon opened his mouth to list all the ways that Kain was awesome, and Francis said nothing while he listened to this long tirade. And his silence only made Oberon more nervous, so he rambled more. and Oberon stopped talking when he saw his father placing his hand into his coat pocket, and Kain nervously felt for his revolver, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Francis bring out an envelope. My father abandoned me and my mother after I was born, and I promised myself that I was not going to be like my own man. So I married your mother after knocking her up, and I began to set money aside for your education starting on the day that you were born, and do with it what you will, said Francis before departing. Oberon reluctantly took the check, and he had been dreading this confrontation, and to be honest, he didn't know what to make of it. Was this a goodbye present or guilt money? And what was he trying to say with the story? And Oberon left the meeting with more questions than answers, and the reconciliation, if it was possible, wasn't going to happen after one lunch meeting. That's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.